How do you start uncomfortable conversations with your children? My name is Tanya, and I'm on a mission to contribute to the biggest rise in human consciousness and transformation the world has ever seen. And in today's conversation, we are continuing our celebration of Black History Month and talking about how we can start a dialogue around uncomfortable conversations with our children. Hot topic today. A little bit difficult as well. Here is my question to you today. How do you start uncomfortable conversations? And I kind of started the same way last time, but this time, how do you start uncomfortable conversations with your children? So we are in our season of living a life of intention. And for the month of February, I chose to celebrate Black history by delving into uncomfortable conversations. If you're joining me live, let me know you are here. Say hello. I would love to hear what you have to say, because now more than ever, we need tools and strategies that help us adapt and overcome the enormous amount of stress we're exposed to. And these mindful talks are intended to spark some awareness and start meaningful conversations. And the goal is always thriving, not just surviving. So as mentioned in my last live, I've started recording my podcast episodes that will be airing as of this Sunday. So stay tuned for that. And amongst other things, I asked my guests, how would you say we can start a dialogue with our children about racism? So before we go into that, let's take a moment of gratitude, take 2 deep breaths, find something, anything to be grateful for, and breathe into it. Taking a deep breath, holding it at the top, and releasing it. And really do this exercise, guys. A deep breath in. Hold it at the top and make your exhale nice and long. And I hope that that can bring just a moment of calm to your day. And I feel like we need these breaths even more with these conversations that I'm bringing to you for the month of February. Now, I was going to come on live and have a dialogue about speaking to our children about diversity. And as you know, I'm going live on both platforms, so I'm looking at 2 screens. So I was going to come on live and have a dialogue about speaking to our children about diversity and the harm and effects of racism, and how we can make the conversations more mindful for our children. However, in light of recent events within my community, I want to talk about the very uncomfortable conversation around child abuse. I've played basketball for many years in my life, and I've coached that same sport for many, many, many years as well. So when I talk of my community, I not only talk of my Black brothers and sisters, I also, in this case, talk about my basketball community, because when you're in that community, everyone has a connection. Everyone knows somebody who knows somebody. And the ones who play basketball, they know what I'm talking about. And here is where the uncomfortable conversation begins. We all too often hear about sexual abuse cases within the world of sports. Well, this time it hits way too close to home. And for those of you who know me, you know how close it hits. And one of the sad parts of this whole situation is that risk factors of sexual assaults put certain people at higher risks, children and young people with certain characteristics, according or account for a larger share of sexual abuse victims. It's well known that a child or young person's stage of development and gender contribute to the risk. However, and this is according to the Quebec Public Health Institute, certain characteristics have been identified as being more likely to be found in families where children experience sexual abuse. And these characteristics may affect the parents' ability to properly supervise their children. And family problems also, like families that have already problems in them, also seem to increase children's vulnerability to sexual abuse by contributing to the presence of characteristics sought by the predators. Now, it is an unfortunate fact that certain communities have it harder than others when it comes to living conditions that are ideal for a child. The neighborhood in which this all went down, which is my hometown, it's where I grew up, is predominantly immigrant. And the players on the basketball teams, in this particular case, are predominantly Black. And all this to give you a context as to why I'm even talking about this as part of my uncomfortable conversations for Black History Month. Because as you know, I was already starting the uncomfortable conversation series for the month of February as a way to celebrate Black History Month and have conversations about things that are not comfortable to talk about. So this situation comes at a time when, you know, it's kind of serendipity. I was already talking about uncomfortable situations, and this is extremely uncomfortable. Now, how do we talk to our kids about this? Now, my son is a very curious boy, like most kids his age. And of course, when you call his name, he does not hear it. He can't hear when you're calling him to do his homework or do something that we need him to do. But let me tell you, when adults are having a conversation, he may seem like he's doing something or could even be in an entirely different room. He hears it. So when my husband and my mom and I were discussing the situation, he overheard certain things. And when he asked what we were talking about, the first instinct is to say, nothing you should be worrying about. Like, this is an adult conversation, especially when you come from a West Indian background where children did not mingle in big people conversation, right? But as soon as the "don't worry about it" came out of my mouth, I had a moment of, okay, wait, how much should I tell him right now? And how do I voice it in a mindful way so that he doesn't internalize stuff the wrong way? And so the way I chose to voice it was that specific time is by telling him that there are people who make really bad decisions. And because of those decisions, they need to be held accountable. Of course, that wasn't enough for him. He continued to repeatedly ask me what exactly the people had done. And you know, he was very insistent. But the only other thing I could bring myself to tell him was that, you know, when something isn't right, you just feel it. And when it isn't right, you don't do it. And if someone does something to you that isn't right, you tell us. So truth be told, I was kind of caught off guard by the fact that he even heard the conversation. It was late and the whole thing drained us because it was just so close to home, right? So we didn't want to go too deep into what isn't right in terms of what an adult can do to a child. but that conversation is coming because it is necessary. And my husband and I feel we need to get way more specific in terms of letting them know where boundaries are. Like, where are the boundaries? This is a perfect opportunity for us to start the conversation, but it definitely needs to be done in a mindful way. But children in general definitely need to know where the boundaries are in terms of their body, their temple. This is theirs. This is what God gave them. And there are certain things that are just not acceptable for some people to do. And they need to be able to come to us confidently and let us know when something is wrong. So I think it's also really important to let our children know that they're heard, create a safe space for them to come to us. So again, I ask you, how have you, or how do you plan on having difficult conversations with your children? So to all of the victims, you are heard. Into my community, I send healing, and I really send healing all over, to everyone involved. I send healing. Through these difficult conversations and our ability to truly listen, we will begin to understand the person who is seeking to be heard and what he or she is going through, and in turn begin or continue the healing process. Once you are heard, institutions can step up and make adjustments to protect the ones who are most vulnerable. And so this is what I hope that is going to come out of this whole situation, that institutions are going to realize that certain things need to be in place, especially in certain communities where certain people are more vulnerable. So let me know what you think. Continue the conversation. Continue to live with intention, compassion, and mindfulness. And I will talk to you soon. Bye. My future self came to see me today. She told me that in order to have the life I saw her in, that fulfilled, peaceful, abundant life, I have to continue being a compassionate human who truly cares about people, who accesses empathy easily, and works in a timely way. Make every moment count. Make it last forever. As always, I thank you for tuning in. These episodes are meant to be of massive value to you, and so I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, all I ask in return is for you to give it a thumbs up, give it some love in the reviews, share with 1 or 2 friends whom you know will benefit from hearing this content. Check out the links in the description. Continue to lead with empathy, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Many blessings.